So, Jason, can you start us off with a birthday song for Shakespeare?
Well, we should absolutely. Hi, Julie. Hi, everybody. It's so nice that everybody's tuned in for this. And happy birthday, Bill. How old did you say? Ava worked out how old he was going to be. 458, I think.
458.
458 today. Wow.
Years young.
Goodness me. Just sing happy birthday to him real quick. If you can just do like a British accent, then you can sing along. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to. Oh, happy birthday, dear Shakespeare. Shakespeare. Happy birthday to. Hi-yo.
Wow. That really got me in the mood for some music, some art, and some drama. So Jason, I think you have a song you want to share for us from Hamlet, which is not a song that we necessarily associate with music. Tell us what you're going to do and why, and then do it.
All right. So some years ago, many years ago, a decade ago now, goodness me, I had this idea to put tunes to the songs of William Shakespeare. The plays are strewn, of course. Those of you who know about Shakespeare will know the plays are strewn with lyrics. Shakespeare wrote the word "song" at the top of the page, so it's sort of a clue. Now, I didn't realise that this is not just my idea. That many people have set Shakespeare's songs to music because the music itself is lost to time. So, without getting too much into it right this very moment, this song is from Hamlet. And I know we're going to talk a bit about Hamlet and the art associated with that play, and so here's Ophelia's song. We're going to talk a bit about Ophelia in a bit with Malcolm. There's a rare stage direction in the play here, in Act 4, Scene 5, and it says, let me just read this. It says, "Enter Ophelia playing on a lute, and her hair down, singing." So if you can imagine that, this is what Ophelia sings. She's gone a bit bonkers because her boyfriend and her father are both dead, and she's upset, to say the least. How should I, your true love, know from another one? By his cockle hat and staff, sandal shown, he is dead and gone, lady, he is dead and gone, and his head, the grass green turf, his heel a stone. I your true love know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was wonderful. So that's Shakespeare's words, but it's Jason's music and instrumentation,
I think that's
and his sensibility and his personality too. So that's great. So Ophelia is singing that song and other songs in her mad scenes, in the sort of downward turn of Hamlet, and she will eventually die. And she does not die on stage. Instead, her death is recounted by Gertrude, the mother of Hamlet, and someone who thought of herself as perhaps the future mother-in-law of Ophelia. And so Ava Burton has agreed to perform this for us. And let me just say a little bit about Ava. She was classically trained in acting at East 15 Acting School in London. She toured the UK for 5 seasons with the Shakespearean Young People's Theatre Company. And she is a founding member with Jason of Shakespeare's Fool, Songs and Speeches from the Plays, which you will have a chance to see this summer at the What is that? We need to mute. Who is that? Okay, TJ.
that was really good.
That was a little psychedelic. Jason, can you try coming back on?
Yeah, are we on?
Are we here?
Yes, you're here. And I'm going to see if I can spotlight you so that we don't get interruptions. Okay, let's hope we don't have interruptions. Everybody who is not speaking, please mute your microphones.
So, hello everybody. This is Gertrude. She's, as Julia said, she's giving the news to Ophelia's brother that Ophelia is drowned. One woe doth tread upon another's heels, so fast they follow. Your sister's drowned, Laertes. There is a willow grows aslant a brook that shows his hoar leaves in the glassy stream. There with fantastic garlands did she make of crow's flowers, nettles, daisies, and long purples, that liberal shepherds give a grosser name, but our cold maids do dead men's fingers call them. There upon the pendant boughs, her coronet weeds clambering to hang, an envious sliver broke, when down her weedy trophies and herself fell into the weeping brook. Her clothes spread wide and mermaid-like, a while they bore her up, which time she chanted snatches of old tunes, as one incapable of her own distress, or like a creature native and endued unto that element. But long it could not be, till that her garments, heavy with their drink, pulled the poor wretch from her melodious lay to muddy death. Drown.
Thank you, Ava. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. So I hope that you could hear how pictorial that image is. We don't get to see Ophelia die on stage, but we get to picture it in our mind's eye. And that in turn has been very inspiring for artists. And there's an especially famous painting that you may have seen by John Everett Millay of this scene. And we happen to have here in Orange County and here on our Zoom call today, one of the world's experts on this painting, Dr. Malcolm Warner. Malcolm is an independent art historian and an authority on John Everett Millay. The catalog of Millay's works included in his doctoral thesis was a starting point for the full catalog raisonné on which he is continuing to work. He has had a rich career in the American museum world. He was senior curator of paintings and sculpture at the Yale Center for British Art. And he has been executive director at Laguna Art Museum. where we actually did Shakespeare's birthday programs for several years together. And some of you may have attended those. It was very exciting. Malcolm has since retired from Laguna Art Museum, and he's now devoting his time to the completion of his study and catalog of Millet. So we're really thrilled to have him with us here today. And so, Malcolm, do you want to say hi to everyone and show us this famous painting?
Yeah, thanks. I'm honored to be part of this bardic celebration. And I'll let's go to my favorite painting here. Good. Yes. So this is. Excuse me, just a minute. Yeah. So this is the painting. For British artists of the 1700s and 1800s, Shakespeare was a go-to source of subject matter, rather like the Bible was for Roman Catholic European artists of earlier periods, like the Renaissance and the Baroque. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Everybody okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Good. So Shakespeare becomes like a Bible of source material. And the death of Ophelia is a favorite subject. And as Julia was just saying, it doesn't happen on stage. And I think that gave artists a certain kind of freedom to imagine what it would look like, uninhibited by having seen it certain ways in performance. The other thing is that not being part of any performance meant that it drove the artist towards a kind of reliance on actually reading Shakespeare's text. And I think Millet did that very carefully. Here's what it looks like in its frame. Those upper corners seem to me to sort of press down on the scene and force one's attention more towards the figure than a regular rectangular shape. So that's the way it looks at Tate Britain, its current home. So as a good pre-Raphaelite artist, Millet, as a matter of principle, wanted to paint everything from the actual object right there in front of him. So to paint the background to the scene, he set himself up with his canvas on the banks of a little river called the Hogs Mill in what is now South London, and painted every leaf and every petal and everything right there on the spot, amid a lot of kind of distractions and disruptions, bugs sticking on the paint, all kinds of things. It was a very arduous, difficult kind of process that the pre-Raphaelites set themselves, but they felt that that was the way to achieve a kind of authenticity that you couldn't get by working entirely in the studio. And it's a massive detail, this painting. I mean, it's like detail on steroids. And that was another pre-Raphaelite thing. The more detail, the more meaning, basically. That's what they felt you could get more like storytelling and more symbolism into your painting, the more attentive you were to detail and painting in a factual, meticulous way what was right there in front of you. And that's especially the case with the flowers in this wonderful painting. Millet picks up on flowers mentioned in the Shakespeare text, in the Ophelia's songs as she gathers the flowers and the weeds, and in the Queen's speech that Ava read so beautifully just now. And he throws in a few of his own ideas too. Here's a couple of details. Here's the willow that grows aslant a brook above Ophelia's head, as she slips away. And if you look near the top of the image on the right, you see a stinging nettle in there. I think that's a wonderful touch. That this pretty tree has an image associated with pain in it. Willows, by the way, are traditionally symbolic of sadness, and they're associated with mourning and with forsaken love too. On the left, the robin here probably alludes to a song that Ophelia sings a bit earlier than this. It's called "For Bonny Sweet Robin Is All My Joy." That's the left side. Now to the middle. Look at those violets around her neck. She's got this necklace, floral necklace, carefully chosen violets, I think, to connect to a remark she makes about the death of her father, Polonius, at the hands of Hamlet. She said that she refers to violets that withered all when my father died. But violets too are associated with ideas that chime in with the meaning of the painting, with chastity, and specifically the death of the young. The Victorians were very attuned to flower symbolism, by the way, which they refer to as the language of flowers. You know, you could send messages to your loved one by just putting a certain combination of flowers into an envelope and sending it to them. And that was, everyone knew what each flower signified. Look at that beautiful rose there, right alongside Ophelia's right cheek. Laertes, her brother, refers to her earlier as Rose of May. And there are daisies here in the bottom right corner of this detail. There are more of them off screen to the right there. And daisies too are carefully chosen. They're mentioned in the Shakespeare text, but they're also like commonly associated with the idea of innocence. The flower that Millet himself adds in that's not in Shakespeare is this poppy down here in the bottom right-hand corner. Very sort of significantly chosen, of course, because of the association of poppies with sleep and death. And poignantly enough, the model for Ophelia, Elizabeth Siddal, who was the girlfriend of Millet's fellow pre-Raphaelite, Dante Gabriel Rossetti, she would eventually become addicted to laudanum, a kind of poppy opium-based medicine of the time, and would die of an overdose of it. But that's quite a far in the future. Although it's very tempting to see this image of her as Ophelia as somehow kind of in some way predictive. I don't know. Millet took so long to paint this picture, and that was typical of the pre-Raphaelites, that they got more disaffected actually later on with how bloody long it took to do each highly detailed painting. And because it took so long, he did the background in the summertime, then added Ophelia into the center of the composition in the studio during the winter. The flowers, as he put them in, they weren't, people who know a lot about flowers can tell that this particular combination, they would never have been all in bloom at the same time. So here on the right, detail of the right-hand side, with the flowers at the top there, these ones are purple loosestrife, which I think Millet puts in as his reference to the dead men's fingers, the long purples that Shakespeare mentioned, which he probably meant a different flower actually, called an early purple orchid. But anyway, Millet goes for purple loosestrife, and it's dead right, isn't it? For dead men's fingers, these purple spiky forms, and they fits in also with the bawdy name for long purples that the so-called liberal shepherds gave, which was a bawdy play on the fact that they look phallic like that. Then forget-me-nots at the bottom here, they obviously carry their meaning in their name. So while Millet was painting Ophelia, amid much trial and tribulation, his friend Holman Hunt, another member of the pre-Raphaelite group, was working in a neighboring field, painting the background to this picture, the hireling shepherd. It actually was shown, first of all, in an exhibition with a tag, a kind of quote from Shakespeare attached to it, actually from King Lear, about a shepherd who's neglecting his sheep, which is what is going on here. The sheep in the background are wandering into this golden cornfield here, wheat field. And Holman Hunt intended that as a symbol of the way that at this point in Victorian England, a lot of Anglicans were being tempted to drift into Roman Catholicism. And that's a symbol of that. In fact, the whole painting, it looks like it's just a bucolic pastoral scene, but it's really about the state of the Church of England, which Holman Hunt is kind of criticizing allegorically by this flirtatious shepherd dallying with the shepherdess. But the reason I show it mainly is because of the object that he's showing her in his hand here, which is in the detail on the right, which is a death's head moth. You know, he's found this thing he's showing off. But look at that skull shape there. That's why they're called a death's head moth. And I think this gave Millet an idea, because hidden in the branches of the vegetation on the far bank of Ophelia's stream, there's this shape that looks very much like a skull, don't you think? I mean, it is just an accidental configuration of light and shade, but once you see it as a skull, you can't see it as anything else. Here it is in this part of the picture here. And of course, brilliantly chosen, I think, by the artist to relate the picture to the famous Alas Poor Yorick scene, but also to play up the idea of the memento mori, remember you must die, you know, reminder of mortality. So the whole painting, I think, actually is a memento mori. The poignancy of the work comes from the idea of this tragic death amongst scenes of lush growth and flowering. That imagery of the flower is certainly there in Shakespeare. Millet really brings it out, and I think ultimately wants to liken Ophelia herself to a flower, beautiful but short-lived. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Malcolm. That was great. So interesting to see all those details and appreciate the kind of inventiveness and textual attention, but also creativity that Millet brought to this very beloved painting. While we're on the subject of art, we're going to transition to another play, which is Twelfth Night. And since that play is not necessarily as familiar to people as Hamlet, I thought that we would start with some images of Twelfth Night, and then we'll go into some music from Twelfth Night and a dramatic monologue. So here we are. This is by a contemporary of John Everett Millet. His name was Walter Deverell, and he was a friend of the Pre-Raphaelites, although he didn't actually become a formal member of that group. And this is a quite nice kind of story painting in which we get a lot of the central themes and characters of Twelfth Night set out for us. If you know the play, the first line of it is about music. And so it's very appropriate to our gathering today. Is if music be the food of love, play on. And that line belongs to the Duke Orsino, who is here at the center of the painting. And he is a lovesick Duke, and he is calling for music to be performed at the beginning of the play, and then also in Act 2, when this is actually taking place. This guy here is Feste. He's one of Shakespeare's wonderful fool characters. And he was probably performed by Robert Armin, who was a very verbally gifted comedian and part of Shakespeare's group of actors. And he sings some amazing songs in this play that we'll be hearing soon from Jason. Here is the heroine of the play. Her name is Viola, and she has been shipwrecked on the coast of Illyria and separated from her twin brother. And so in order to survive in a potentially hostile environment, she dresses up as a boy and she enters the service of Duke Orsino. And perhaps you can tell that she's falling in love with him, but he thinks that she's a young man and he's in love with someone else. And much of the comedy and romance unfolds around the deceptions and screens of love that occur in this play. Twelfth Night itself refers to the 12th night of Christmas, which is celebrated either on January 5th or January 6th. It's a night of revelry, of drinking. You see that emphasized in this image. You also have a king or queen for the day wearing a paper crown, selected on the basis of finding a hidden bean in a special 12th night cake. And there's a lot of music that's very much being emphasized. In this image, we have the man at the center singing. We also have more drinking. We again have the paper crown set here on the edge of this chair. You may be familiar with Twelfth Night as Three Kings Day. This is a very popular holiday in Mexico and Latin America and in the Caribbean, as well as in France and other parts of Europe. It is celebrated with gift giving, sometimes with parades. For many households in the Spanish-speaking part of the world, it's the three kings rather than Santa Claus who brings gifts to children during the Christmas season. So we're going to turn now to some music by Jason. I'm going to spotlight you again, Jason, so that we make sure that we are fully focused on you and your performance. And just tell us a little bit about the music of Twelfth Night and give us some songs.
I will. Thank you. And thank you again, Malcolm. Well, Twelfth Night is the only play I did at school. You would think, being Brits, that we were steeped in Shakespeare, whereas I was steeped in rugby, actually, at school. So, no. But I doing this project with Ava, I've become, obviously, the world's most foremost expert now, of course. I think we agree that's the case. Anyway, the Twelfth Night was the first play I looked at when I was looking for songs, and because I remembered the play from school, and I remembered the final, and I'll sing that song in a minute, the last moments of the play of Festi, the clown, singing a song, which I'll do in a minute. But this first song is actually the last song that I put to music, and as Julia said in a great sort of summary of the play, synopsis of the play, the Count Orsino is in love with somebody else, and Cesario, who's really there's a lot of cross-dressing and miscommunication and all kinds of stuff going on in this play, which is where the comedy comes from. But there's sort of an underlying theme of death throughout. I mean, Orsino says, that strain again. He's talking about a piece of music at the beginning, that it hath a dying fall. Then there's Olivia's brother and father, if I'm right, dead a few months previously, and Sebastian and Olivia think that everybody's dead on the bed. I mean, there's death everywhere in this play. And when Orsino demands music, as he always does, to have a background to his genius, he's a very arrogant sort of guy. And he's talking to Cesario, who's a girl dressed as a man, who secretly loves him. And he's telling her about how, or him, he thinks it's him, about how much deeper a man's love is than a woman could possibly ever, be in love. He calls for music, and Festi, the fool, who turns out to be the most sensible person in the entire play, comes in and sings this song, which is requested, as I say, by the very arrogant and self-referencing Orsino. All right, does that make any sense? I think I yacked on long enough. All right, very good.
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. This is Well, come away, death, inside cypress, let thou be laid. Fly away, death, you are slain by fair cruel maid. Your shroud of white all struck with you, oh prepare it. My part of death, oh one so true did share it. Not a flower sweet, your black coffin there be strong, not a friend, not a friend greet my poor corpse where your bones should be thrown. A thousand sighs to save, oh, lay you away, yeah. 'Cause our true love never find thy grave to weep there. Come away, death. Sad cypress, let thou be laid.
That's wonderful. Do we have time for the Wind and the Rain, which is how the play ends and also shows up in King Lear?
Yes, indeed, we do. And I think this song kind of speaks for itself, but it's Festi the Clown. When all has been worked out and beautifully resolved, Festi the Clown just talking about what life's really like. When that I was a tiny little boy, hey ho, the wind and the rain, a foolish thing was but a toy. The rain, it raineth every day. When I came to man's estate with a hey ho, the wind and the rain, 'gainst knaves and thieves men shut their gates. The rain, it raineth every day.
I could listen to that every day. It's wonderful. So Ava, I'm hoping that you'll be able to share us a little bit of Viola. I think this is the scene where she has just had to court Olivia on behalf of Orsino, and she's dressed up as a boy. So Olivia has fallen in love with her, but Viola is in love with Orsino, and things are all kind of a mess, right?
Right.
So, and it's a wonderful speech. It gives us a lot of insight into Viola's character and her predicament at this moment in the play.
Okay. I left no ring with her. What means this lady? Fortune forbid. My outside hath not charmed her. She made good view of me. Indeed, that sure me thought her eyes had lost her tongue, for she did speak in starts distractedly. She loves me, sure. The cunning of a passion invited me in this churlish messenger. None of my lord's ring, why he left her none. I am the man. If it be so as 'tis, poor lady, she were better love a dream. Disguise, I see thou art a wickedness wherein the pregnant enemy does much. How easy is it for the proper false in women's waxen hearts to set their forms? Alas, our frailty is the cause, not we. For such as we are made of, such we be. How will this fadge? My master loves her dearly, and I, poor monster, fond as much on him, and she mistaken seems to dote on me. Oh, what will become of this? As I am man, my state is desperate for my master's love. As I am woman, oh, now alas the day, what thriftless sighs shall poor Olivia breathe? Oh, time, thou must untangle this, not I. It is too hard a knot for me to untie.
Wonderful. And it takes the rest of the play for that knot to untie. But her patience is wise, and it does pay off in the end. So that's great. Jason, I think you had something you wanted to share from Merchant of Venice, a play that actually ends with a very important kind of commentary on music, but we don't necessarily associate with music.
Right, yes. Not so much music in Merchant of Venice or in Macbeth. Let me turn the echo off. Yes, so odd to have this, I guess, and we're going to get into a little bit of Merchant coming up. Difficult, strange, interesting and strange play, and in some ways incredibly inspiring. But anyway, so yes, what's happening here is Portia, the daughter of the is he a king or a lord or something? What is he?
A rich guy.
A rich dude.
A plutocrat.
Right, he's an oligarch.
An oligarch, that's what I meant.
Right. And anyway, so Portia's very beautiful and very nice, actually. And but anyway, she's been made to do this crazy thing with her suitors, where she's 3 boxes, 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 lead. And they've to choose from one of these boxes. You see, these suitors as they come in. It's quite sort of conceit, but they come in and they look at these boxes, and they just pick a box, and if there's a picture of the note and a picture of Portia in this box, then yay, you get to spend the rest of your life with her. So I can't think of a sort of modern, apart from The Bachelor or one of those shows. I guess it's one of, but divorce not as easy in those days. Anyway, so Portia shows the 3 boxes to the suitors. There's a couple of guys come in. One's kind of greedy guys after her money, and one, I think it's the Prince of Morocco. He's a sort of vain, very vain man, and anyway, the Prince of Morocco picks the wrong box, goes for the gold box. He says it's because, anything but gold would be an insult to Portia, you see, and her beauty. But he's wrong, and he has to leave. And before he picks as he's picking the box, he sings a song. The great line at the end of this, by the way, is that when the Prince of Morocco flounces out after being rejected because he picked the wrong box, Portia turns as he turns away and leaves. She says, "A gentle riddance," which I think is a fantastic line. So very politely saying goodbye. So anyway, this is the song. All that glisters is not gold. Very famous kind of line from literature. People that don't even know the play know this line. It's been used many times. All that glisters is not gold. All that glistens is not gold. We often hear it misquoted. And I'm sure you can figure out what that really means, All right. All that glisters is not gold. Often have you heard that told. Many a man his life has sold. Fare you well. But my outside to behold, gilded tombs do worms enfold. Had you been as wise as bold, Fare you well. Fare you well.
Wow. Thank you. That's great. We have time to look at a little bit more art. And just give me a second here. I need to remove the spotlight, and then we're going to share screen. So Jason mentioned Macbeth, and Macbeth was very popular with 18th and 19th century painters. And one of my favorite of those painters is Henry Fuseli, who was born in Switzerland, but ended up becoming a very important painter and art historian, and really a philosopher of art in London and England and the UK. And this particular work is very famous. This is actually a study for a painting that he did several times, and that was then replicated in lots of other art and became kind of a meme, the 18th and 19th century equivalent of a meme. And this is actually at the Huntington Library. It was recently acquired by them. And the Greek underneath it says, "These are women, but I call them Gorgons." These are, of course, the three witches from Macbeth, and they're pointing their bony fingers at Macbeth and Banquo. Fuseli brilliantly does not show the two men. He only shows the witches, and they become a kind of a Greek chorus, hence the reference there to Aeschylus and his play, The Eumenides, which means the Furies. Fuseli loved this play. He even translated it into German. It's probably the first German translation of Macbeth. And he did many, many different paintings based on different moments of the play. Malcolm, what do you think about this painting? I kind of love it.
Was fascinated by Macbeth in particular. I mean, all the artists and writers of the Romantic period, of course, loved the intensity of the emotion in that. But with Fuseli, he had these particular kind of psychosexual tendencies that made him, very attracted, I think, to the idea of this dominatrix of Lady Macbeth, as he tends to see her. But this particular painting, I think, is kind of like a landmark in that he takes a certain genre of painting, which is the theatrical portrait. It's based loosely on performances that were happening at the time, but really not. There was another expatriate painter called Johann Zoffany at this time, whose specialty was scenes where, like, the great actor David Garrick and was performing in Macbeth, that kind of thing. And the portraiture was very accurate, and it was a very faithful representation of what happened on stage. Fuseli here just takes the subject and runs with it, and doesn't care too much about any kind of truth to actual appearances. Actually, look at the way Macbeth's figure almost looks flayed. It's like his rib cage has been revealed, like the skin's been stripped off, and the reduction of the figures to these ghost-like forms, I think, is extraordinarily expressionistic and modern looking. So it's a whole new world of theatrical painting that I think he brings into existence here.
Yeah, I just love them. They're just so, he went and studied in Rome and looked at a lot of paintings and sculptures, but then he really gives it his own kind of pre-romantic, expressionistic. I think they're just fantastic. Here's some other Fuselis. This is Macbeth and the witches again towards the end of the play. This is Lady Macbeth with her candle, but not nearly as strong as that picture that Malcolm just took us through. But you can see how he's really interested in the entire drama. So Malcolm, I've got another question for you. This is Helen Modjeska. And I know that you and the UCI libraries, and I think we have Wendy Morner here from the UCI libraries in the audience, you and the UCI libraries and Laguna Art Museum collaborated on an exhibition about Helena Modjeska, many of whom's papers and artifacts belong to UC Irvine. Can you just tell us a little bit about who she was?
Well, she was a Polish actress. She established a terrific reputation in Poland, but decided to emigrate to the United States when she and her husband evolved this idea that they wanted to get away from Poland with all the problems. It was split up between Russia and Prussia at the time, and a very oppressive place to live. They thought they could establish a utopian commune in California. So they moved here with some like-minded artistic friends. They thought they could subsist on a bit of farming, a bit of ranching, but they were just hopeless at it. They had no experience. They hardly spoke English, and it was all a bit of a failure. And in the end, Modjeska, who thought she could probably withdraw from acting, she had to go back to it really, but she did in a big way. She went to England to improve her English and to develop Shakespearean roles, and then came back to the US and just took the country by storm. She crisscrossed the country performing Shakespeare, and became kind of the Shakespearean actress of the golden age, the Gilded Age, I should say. And yeah, as you say, her papers are all because this colony she established was near Anaheim, and she continued to live there. All her memorabilia a lot of it has remained in this area, and the Bowers Museum has a lot of it too, but UC Irvine too. And you can visit her house, which she called
in Modjeska
Arden.
Canyon.
Yeah, in
Named after her.
Modjeska Canyon, not far inland from UC Irvine. Actually, this Queen Anne style building. It's beautiful. It's a National Historic Landmark, and you can sign up for a tour.
Well, that's great. I thought it was a wonderful connection between our library, our region of the world, and our Shakespeare.
Oh, I should tell you, she was a pretty good artist as well on the side. And she did this fairy tale illustrated book for her grandson, and that's what we did as the exhibition. It's now in the UCI library, and it's this kind of Alice in Wonderland type tale called Titi Nunu Klembolo.
They're just beautiful drawings. It's just extraordinary. So I think we're ready for some Lady Macbeth. And I'm going to spotlight our Ava again. And this is actually, I believe Ava is going to do the scene which you saw depicted in that very strong painting by Fuseli, in which Macbeth comes back with those daggers, having killed Duncan, but he is a total mess. And Lady Macbeth has to help him pull his stuff together so that they don't get immediately caught.
The hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself? Hath it slept since, and wakes it now to look so green and pale at what it did so freely? From this time such I account thy love. Art thou afeard to be the same in thine own act and valour as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteemest the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat i' the adage? What beast wast then that made you break this enterprise to me? When you durst do it, then you were a man. To be more than what you are, you would be so much more the man. Nor time nor place did then adhere, yet you would make both. They have made themselves, and that their fitness does now unmake you. I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while he was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gum and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this.
Thank you. That is wonderful. So Eli, I am hoping that you can tell us just a little bit more, kind of as we close out our program. Tell us a little bit more about what is ahead of us this summer and your vision, your musical vision, if you'd like, of the Comedy of Errors.
Oh, thank you so much. Happy to chat a little bit about it. We're going to have a lot of fun with the Comedy of Errors. We've decided that we need an enjoyable, fun, laughing evening in the theater, or an evening filled with laughter if we can manage it. So we're setting Comedy of Errors in the 70s. And the concept is this, that the twins, if you know the story, are separated when they're very young. There's two sets of twins, so there's four boys. And they were intended to be a boy band, but they were separated. So the Antipholus and Dromio of Ephesus are disco masters, and the Antipholus and Dromio of Syracuse are funk masters. And they can't really, their music doesn't quite work for them because they don't quite have that disco funk fusion that we love so much, that we've heard in great bands like Earth, Wind and Fire. So so that's the idea behind this particular production. And Mike Hooker, my esteemed colleague in the drama department, he's a sound designer extraordinaire, and channeled all of these. I said to him, Mike, I want original music. I don't want to use music that we're going to pull from other bands like the Bee Gees or Earth, Wind and Fire. I want you to create some music. So he channeled all of the music of the era and created an introduction, which I'm going to play for you. And basically what you're going to hear, the first part of this is the disco part, where we're going to meet Antipholus and Dromio, the disco masters. Then you'll hear it shift into a funk portion. That would be when we introduce Antipholus and Dromio of Syracuse. And then there's a kind of Santana version, which is the witchy women, because the town is filled with magic and sorcery. And that will bring in our women, Luciana and Adriana. And then the final section, the fourth section, is a little bit of a fusion where we meet all of the people in town, and you'll feel the music kind of come together in a celebration. This is just the beginning. This is the introduction of the play. It's right before the play starts. When the music ends, we're going to start the first scene. Okay, so that's the intro, and here it is.
Wow, thank you, Eli. That's going to be really fun. You've got to be there. There's information in the chat about how to check out the performance times and tickets. We are really at the hour, so I'm going to ask Jason to send us out with a Shakespearean blessing. He knows how much I love and need a Shakespearean blessing today.
You're a great fan. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Eli and Malcolm and everybody for being here. It's been a lovely way to celebrate Shakespeare's birthday. Excuse me. And this is a blessing. It's a blessing to be here. And this song is a blessing. It's the only song that when I put these songs together, it's the only one I messed with the words, where I stuck two songs together. One of them is from The Tempest, and the other one is from As You Like It. And if you're a purist and you think that's terrible, well, it's As You Like It, isn't it? And and so we'll see you at New Swan Theatre on July 26th for Shakespeare's Fool, the show, where we bring on actors from New Swan and friends of ours, some surprises and fun, people doing speeches and songs from the plays, and that I think is about it, isn't it, Ava?
That's it. Thank you very, very much for having us. And just bear in mind that Jason was supposed to sing this to me at our wedding, but didn't dare.
Honor, riches, marriage blessing, long continuance and increasing. Holy joys be still upon you. Juno sings the blessings on you. 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 Earth's increase, voice and plenty, barns and garners never empty, vines and clustering bunches growing, plants with goodly birth and bowing. Blessings on you. Blessings on you. Blessings on you. Blessings on you. Then there is mirth in heaven, then earthly things made even. Spring come to you at the farthest, in the very end of harvest. Scarcity and want shall shun you. Serious blessing, so is on you. Blessings on you. Blessings on you. Blessings on you. Blessings on you. All of this music is available on Apple Music. JasonFeddy.com. JasonFeddy.com. Actually, there's a website for us too. Songsfromtheplays.com. Blessings on